Let's apply to Southern Oregon University. We'll start on the Oregon Goes to College website. From the College Info menu tab, we'll choose Apply to College, and that'll take us to a page that has a lot of really good information about what we need to do to prepare to be ready to apply, including a list of documents or materials that we need to gather and have ready when we sit down to apply, and some tips for how we can be successful during the time that we do that. Now, I already know that today I'm planning to apply to Southern, and I've gathered the materials that I need. And that includes making sure that I have both my It's a Plan College workbook up and ready. This has quite a bit of information about myself that I don't necessarily have memorized. So in this case, for example, it has information about my activities and also some information about my residency so that I can fill that out for in-state tuition purposes. And I also have both my college essay and Southern Oregon University's short answer responses that I'll be able to copy and paste into that section of the application when I get to it. So now that I know I have everything I need, let's scroll down and find the table that has a list of all of Oregon's colleges and universities. I'll choose the Public University tab, which is where I'll find Southern Oregon. And before I click on the link, I do want to make a note that there is a $60 application fee. And so I know that I also need to be prepared to either pay that fee when I finish filling out the application, or I need to be prepared to immediately follow up with the requirements to request a fee deferral. So I'll go ahead and click on the link, and it'll take me directly to Southern's website. Directly to a page about applying. And there is some additional information about the application process that you'll want to read beforehand, but I've already done that, so I'm ready to click Apply Now. And it'll take me to a checklist about all of the steps that I need to complete. Completing the application itself is just the first step. You'll notice that there are several steps beyond that. But today we're just going to take step number 1, and that is to log in and apply now. As it happens, I do already have a login and PIN for Southern Oregon. And so I'm going to go ahead and enter that information now and log in. If you have not yet logged in, you will click on the first time user account creation. And when you do, you'll be asked to give them a login ID and make your PIN, and then you'll be able to get into the system just as I'm about to do now. Okay. Once I do that, I will see that I have the option to work on my fall 2021 application, or I could create a new application. Of course, I'm planning on the fall 2021 application, so I will go ahead and click on that. Okay, so once we're logged in, we start at our application checklist, and let's get a lay of the land. These are all links, and it means that I can go to any of these sections that I want to at any time. I don't have to complete them in any particular order. When there is a red checkbox, that means that I have completed that section. The black circle means that I still have some work to do on it. And I can stop at any time that I want to and finish it later, so I can save as I go and come back and work on this at another time until I'm complete and until my application is complete and I want to submit it. I also, if I have any questions as I'm going through this process, I can click on Email Admissions Office and it will automatically pull up the opportunity to send an email to them. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're actually going to click into name to take a look at what is there. And what we see is that the name has already been filled in, and this is the legal name. So a legal last name, legal first name, and a middle name. The legal name is the name that's on your official records. So possibly your birth certificate, a driver's license if you have one, your academic transcript from high school. So your legal name is what they're looking for here. We'll have an opportunity to provide other names at a later date. Before we do that, though, I want to point out that if there is a red asterisk or star next to a question, that's something that is required, and we won't be able to submit our application unless we've completed that section. If there is no star, we can leave it blank, and because that's an optional question. There may be a very good reason to answer the question, and so we'll talk about those as we come to them. So again, we've got our legal name, and then we have the opportunity to provide previous last names. And that means if you have used a different last name ever, that's what you'll want to include here. And that might happen for reasons of adoption or marriage or other times that you've just used a different last name. And so you'll want to make sure you're providing that there. That is so that if they get any documents that have your previous name on them, they can connect your application to the documents. You'll also want to give them a preferred first name. This is the name that you would like for people to call you. So I have one of those and I'm going to include it there. You can choose to do that if you like. These buttons here allow me to decide what I'm going to do next. So I could go back to the checklist. I could continue on to the next section of the application, or I could save everything and exit out by finishing later. I'm going to continue, and that takes me to the personal information section. So here, again, remember that an asterisk means that this is a required question. My social security number is not required, but it's a good thing to provide if you have one. So if you are a U.S. citizen or permanent resident and have a social security number, especially if you're planning to apply for federal financial aid, you'll want to provide your social security number now. Gender, you can choose to not answer that question or to answer it. And you can provide some information about your gender identity if you would like to. If you're curious about why they're asking about both gender identity or personal pronouns, you can click on this link here, Why Do We Ask? And it will take you to some information about why different types of information is being collected. So you can read about that and make your decision about sharing that information if you like. Citizenship is a question that is required, so you'll want to make sure that you provide that information. If you are not a U.S. citizen, you'll just go ahead and choose that, and same for permanent resident. So we'll choose U.S. citizen. We're looking for our email address. You want to make sure that the email address that you're using is the one that you're using for all of your college applications, and that you are checking those messages on a regular basis, probably at least twice a week. And you're going to answer that twice just to make sure that you've typed it correctly the first time. They're wondering whether or not it's okay to contact us. We know now that we've given them our email that they're going to contact us by email, but now they're wondering whether or not it's okay to also contact us with text messages. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. The reason that they're asking me that question is that, well, first they want permission, but the kinds of messages that they're going to possibly send are reminders about deadlines, probably for applications or scholarship opportunities. They might be texting me about things that are missing from my application or other interesting things that I may want to know about. So I'm okay with getting those. Then they're asking me for my birth date, which is, I will go ahead and enter here. And then they ask me for my cell phone number. And this first one is for my area code, and the next is for the number itself. That's not my phone number. Is English my first language? Yes. If I spoke another language at home that wasn't English, I would enter that in this section. And then they're wondering if either of my parents have a bachelor's degree. So this is a question asking if my parents have gone to college and received at least their 4-year degree. For me, the answer is no. Do I plan to seek a degree at Southern? Yes, that's why I'm planning to go there. And I have not ever applied to the college. However, if I had, I would want to fill the answer to if yes, when in this box here. They're asking that question so that they can gather all of your previous application materials with these application materials and look at all of your applications together so that they can see you in full as they're making decisions. They also want to know if I've ever attended Southern, and the answer for me is no. But again, if the answer was yes, I would want to enter that there. And now they're asking about my relationship with the U.S. military, and I have none, so I'm not a veteran. And now they're going to ask me questions about race and ethnicity, and this is not a required question, but I'm going to choose to answer it. One of the reasons that they ask this question is to be able to connect us to resources once we're on campus, if there are any resources specifically for us. And that's also one of the reasons that they ask a question, for example, about whether our parents have graduated from college already. So to get some good information to help them connect us to the different resources or campus groups or clubs that we might be interested in. So for me, I'm going to choose Hispanic or Latino, and then I'm being asked to choose my race in that as well. And I have a lot of different options under each broad category, and so you can choose to be as specific or not as you would like. And so I'm going to choose over here just that. Okay, so I've completed this section on personal information, and I'm going to, again, continue. And now they're looking for my mailing address, and so I will go ahead and enter that now. And it's important to know, address line 2, this is a really good place to put any apartment number that you might live in. So the street goes on line 1, the apartment number goes on line 2, and then city, state, and zip code. Looking for the country, United States is at the top, and then they are again asking me for my phone number. And this last box is for an extension, so if I had an office number or something like that, I would choose that to do that there. And I will continue. Now they're asking for my permanent address. So this is an important note. The mailing address from the previous one is where do I want mail to come to. My permanent address is where do I live. If those are the same, I don't need to fill out this second section. If they are not the same, then I would fill out my permanent address on this page. But for me, they're the same, so I'm going to leave this blank and click continue. Okay, now they're looking for contacts. And in this section, they're really looking for probably my emergency contacts. So who might they be able to be in touch with if they need some additional information? And here I'm going to choose my mother for that. You can choose any of these options. And I will go ahead and fill in information about her. Now I'm only going to fill in the information that is required of me. But you can fill in as much or as little as you like. She lives in the same place that I do, so that makes this part a little bit easier. Go ahead and fill all of this in. She does have a different phone number from me, and so I will provide that for them. And I don't have her email address, so I'm going to just leave that blank. I could choose to enter additional information about another relative. So if I wanted to provide information about my father or a grandparent or a guardian or anybody else, I could do that now. I'm going to choose not to, but if you wanted to, you would click that button and fill out a second form. Click continue. And now they're looking to know, what am I interested in majoring in? And so what am I interested in studying when I arrive at Southern Oregon? And there's some really good information here. The first two are pretty important if you're planning to apply to the Honors College or to study theater. You're going to make sure that you follow these instructions carefully, and then you will need to complete additional application forms. You can apply to Southern as an undeclared major, so somebody who maybe isn't quite certain of what you want to study, but you probably have some idea of what your interests are, and that's where I am. I am not 100% certain what I plan to major in, but I do have some ideas, and so I'm going to submit undeclared in the social sciences. But you'll choose what makes the most sense for you, whether that's undeclared or a specific thing that you're looking for, and then click continue. And now they're looking to have information about where you attended high school. And if you've attended more than one high school, you're going to include information about all of the high schools you've attended. There's a reminder here that you'll want to make sure that once you've completed your application, you'll have your high school send your transcripts or your academic record to the Office of Admission. Without that, they can't make a decision. So I am not homeschooled, so I'm going to not check that box. I have not obtained my GED, so I'm going to say no there. And now they're looking for my high school SEEB code. And the SEEB code is, every high school in the country has a number that identifies the high school. And so I can look that up here by choosing the state that it's in, Oregon. And I can then move on and select my high school city. So my high school city is Corvallis, and I will look for all of the high schools there. And now from here, I should have a list of all of the high schools in Corvallis, and I can choose the one I attend. And so now I've done that, and if I click this button, it's going to take the information that that the system knows about Corvallis High School and enter it into the application form itself. And so I'm going to click that, and it takes me back to the high school page. And you may have noticed that this information was all blank before, and it is not blank now. So they filled in the relevant information. If you weren't able to find your high school in that list, you would want to fill in your school's name and address. Okay, when I plan to graduate, I'm planning to graduate in June of 2021, and I don't know the exact date, but that's okay. I'll just choose June 1st, knowing that it's coming. My GPA is a 3.2, so I'll go ahead and provide that there, and my counselor's name is Mr. Jim Johnson, so I will include that there and also provide his phone number. I don't know his fax number, but his email address I do know. And this is information that if you don't know it off the top of your head, you may very well have it in your It's a Plan College workbook, or it should be available on your high school's website. This is a question asking me that, so I attend an Oregon high school, and it's asking me if that's true, would I consider admission to other Oregon universities that maybe I haven't already applied to? And for me, the answer is yes, so I'll go ahead and choose that. You can choose anything you like. If I had transferred high schools, I would choose this button to enter another high school, but I have always attended the same high school, so I won't be doing that. If you've transferred high schools, you'll want to click on this, and you'll fill out that same information for your previous high schools. and click continue. Okay, so now they're looking for our high school senior schedule. So these are the classes that we're taking senior year. And we have the opportunity to enter all of the classes that we're taking. If we're on a semester schedule, so just 2 semesters in the year, we'll only fill in the first 2 sets of boxes. If we're on a trimester schedule, we'll fill in the first or all 3 sets of boxes. And so we start with our first course and then continue on. I'm going to go ahead and do this offline, and by magic, we'll be back with it entirely filled out. Okay, so I've filled it all out, and I want to just make a couple of notes. You'll want to enter the class by the name that you use, including making sure that you share the level. So for example, I have an honors class here and an AP class here. So if you have those, you'll want to make sure that you include those as well. And for me, I'm taking all year-long courses, and so my 2 boxes look exactly the same. That may be true for you, or you might have some classes in the first semester that you're not taking second semester, and vice versa. So you'll just fill this out for your own schedule and scroll down and click continue. And now they're wondering whether or not I've ever attended a college. I have not, and so I'm going to skip this page. But it looks a lot like or similar to the high school page. So if you've attended college before or taken any classes in a college before, you'll definitely want to do the same thing first by doing the lookup college code, just like we did for the high school. And that will fill in quite a bit of this information. And then you'll want to make sure that you provide information about your GPA, when you started at the college, and anything else, any credits that you've earned, and just answering each of these questions as you go. And if you have multiple colleges, you'll want to click on this button so that you can do that again for a second college and beyond, and click continue. Now that we're being asked about test scores, so these are SAT or ACT scores, or if you've taken SAT achievement tests, and yeah, those are the ones that they're looking for here. So this year and in all following years, Southern Oregon University is test optional. That means that I do not have to submit my test scores in order to be considered for admission to the college, and I am going to choose not to do that, or to not submit my test scores, and so I'm going to leave this blank. But let's take a look at what would happen if I had taken a test score, just in case you have and want to share your scores as well. You're going to, for example, if you take the ACT, you're going to actually enter an ACT composite, an ACT English and writing. You're going to enter each of these scores individually. So you'll put in all of those ACT scores. You'll enter them each individually, and then you will enter the score for each of those, the month that you took that test, and the year that you took that test. And so you'll be able to scroll down to find the month, and then you'll enter the year. The same thing would be true if we were taking SATs. And so here we would go down and we would choose SAT critical reading and math and all of the scores that we've taken, and we would enter those individually. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and enter those. Now, it also makes a note that these are not official scores, and so you will need to make sure that the official test scores are sent to the university when you've submitted your application. So we'll go ahead and continue. It didn't like that I said I was going to provide scores and didn't, so I need to go back out and remove that and click continue. And so now these are those residency questions. These are questions about checking to see whether or not I am an Oregon resident for purposes of in-state tuition. And so the first thing I need to do is say, yes, I consider myself that. Then I'm going to move on. I am not entirely self-supporting, and I'm 100% supported by my parents. You're going to want to answer those correctly for you. But make a note, we do need to answer these questions. So even though there's no red asterisk here, I am required to answer as many of these as I can in order to prove residency. And because I'm under the age of 24, I also need to do that for my parents. So some of this information I know and have memorized, and others of it I don't. So I will be using my ISSA Plan College workbook to find the information. So this question, my most recent continuous presence in Oregon, that means how long have you lived here? And I have lived here since I was born, and they're looking for the month and the year. So I have lived here since I was born. They're looking for a month in 2 numbers and a year in 4 numbers. And I continue to live here this month. I do not have a driver's license, so I won't fill that in. But if I did, I would give the month and year that I got it. I also don't have any military service, so I'm going to leave that blank. No, I haven't entered from Oregon. I don't have a job, so I haven't filed taxes, and I'm not going to include that. I am not a member of a tribe. And again, I don't have a job, so I'm going to leave those blank. So I'm going to fill out as much of this as possible for my parent. I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm going to go into my ISSA Plan College workbook, and in the application section, I've talked to my mom and I've gotten this information about her. So I know that she arrived in Oregon in May of 1998, and I can include that here. And she still lives here. She got her driver's license when she first arrived in Oregon, and she's not in the military, so we'll say no, she didn't enter military service from Oregon and leave the dates blank. Her income taxes, I have the answer to that question, and that is 2018 and 19. And I'm being asked to enter it that way. Oh, wrong section. One in each of these. She's not a member of a tribe, but if she was, I would say yes and enter the tribal affiliation there. And she does have a job. She works at Corvallis Diner in Corvallis, and she's worked there since 2015. And I don't know her second employer, so I will go ahead and leave that blank. So I filled out as much as I possibly can, and I will click continue. Now I have some personal statements that I am going to enter. I can choose to copy and paste that here, and I'm prepared to do so, so I will, but I do have the option to submit this later, so to print it out and mail these responses to them. I think it's probably easier to just go ahead and enter it in here, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say, no, I don't want to mail later. And this question is asking if there's anything about my academic record or test scores that I'd like to explain in greater detail. For me, the answer is no, so I'm going to type that in. However, if there was something that I wanted to share, I would have already written that out, and I would copy and paste it into this section, just as I'm going to do for the next one. And the next one is asking, how do I see myself contributing to campus life and the classroom environment? First, they want to know, will I mail it later? Nope, I'm gonna do it now. And I have already pulled up my short answer responses. So I'm just going to copy and paste that into this box here. Okay, and then I have a personal essay that I'm being asked to respond to. And again, I can print it and mail it later. I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to say no, and I'm going to copy and paste my personal essay here. Now, There are 4 different options that I have, one of which is any topic of my choice. And so because I already wrote an essay for other college applications, I'm going to recycle that and use it for Southern Oregon. And so I'm going to include the prompt at the top when I copy, and I'm going to copy the entire thing, copy it, and paste it in here. But because I'm choosing the topic of my choice, I did make sure to include what that prompt was so they know what they're reading. Okay, once that's in there, I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And now they're asking about what activities I've participated in. Now I have a record of these in my It's a Plan College workbook, and so I'm going to use that to help me fill out this chart. So they're asking me, what activity did I participate in? What grades did I do that? How many hours per week? Did I have any positions or honors? And am I planning to continue that when I graduate? So I'm going to go to the activities section here and find that information for my first activity. Okay, so now that I've seen that, I'm going to come back and fill it in. So 9th through 11th grade, did it for 5 hours a week. And I do not plan to continue. Now I am going to continue this off screen and be back like magic. Okay, so I filled out all of my activities, and it includes some things at school, it includes some significant responsibilities at home, and some volunteer work outside of school. And I can choose up to 8 different activities that I want to share about. I've chosen 4, and I feel good about that, and I'm going to click continue. Now I come back to my application checklist, and check it out. I am completed. I've done everything. These red check marks tell me so, and so I can click application is complete. And now I need to read this carefully. I need to make sure that I read, that I understand, and agree to everything that I'm reading here. And once I do that, I can click I agree to the terms. So again, read, understand, and agree. And now they're asking about fee deferral and whether or not I'm eligible for fee deferral. And so there's some eligibility requirements here, and I'll want to read through all of those to make sure that I know whether or not I will be requesting a fee deferral. And it says if I feel that I qualify for a deferral, I should complete the application fee deferral form by clicking on this link. So if I need to fill that out, I will get that there and fill it out. If I don't need to, then I will keep this at not applicable, or I will choose fee deferral. Either way, I'm going to make my selection and then press continue. This is my signature page saying that I have submitted my application, and congratulations, I'm done. I should be checking my email for next steps.